It was a Tuesday when the phone rang. I remember that, because Tuesdays were always the quiet ones. Mondays had their chaos, Fridays their anticipation. But Tuesday? That was supposed to be still. Predictable. I was in the middle of folding laundry. Hers too, though she'd been gone for 4 months by then. It had become a ritual I couldn't break, like some part of me thought she'd walk back through the front door and complain that I shrank her sweaters again. I'd left everything exactly where she did. Her coffee mug still sat on the side table. Her slippers under the bed. I even kept her last grocery list: almond milk, jasmine rice, toothpaste, pinned to the fridge. Grief does strange things to a man. When I picked up, the voice on the other end was calm. Too calm. "Mr. Cole Delaney? Speaking. This is Officer Hartman with the Dawson County Sheriff's Office. We found something you might want to see." Rewind to 4 months ago, the day Evelyn died. That's what they told me. A hiker found a woman's car abandoned on a cliffside road near Coldwater Gorge. The doors were locked. No signs of struggle. Her purse was still in the passenger seat, and a folded letter addressed to me sat on the dashboard. Just 6 words: "I'm sorry." I couldn't keep pretending. The water was too deep, too fast. They never recovered a body. Friends brought food. Neighbors whispered. Some sent flowers. Others sent silence. Evelyn's mother blamed me, quietly at first, then louder in the weeks that followed. Said she knew something wasn't right between us, that Evelyn had been pulling away. She was right, in a way. Evelyn had changed. For the past year, she'd grown distant, emotionally first, then physically. Fewer touches, shorter kisses, long nights out she never explained. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd give me that brittle smile and say, "Just tired." But even her exhaustion felt like a wall she was building to keep me out, and I let her build it. I didn't fight hard enough to break through. I thought it was just a phase. That love waxed and waned like the moon, that it would pass. But it didn't. It broke. And then, she was gone. Officer Hartman met me at a small roadside station, the kind with creaky floors and burnt coffee always on tap. He was older, face carved with wind and time. He didn't say much, just led me to the evidence room and handed me a manila folder. Inside were 3 photographs. The first was a woman stepping out of a red SUV in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Sunglasses, dark hair tied up, a canvas tote on her shoulder. If you'd never met her, you wouldn't have looked twice. But I knew her walk, that cautious but elegant sway. I knew the way her fingers curled when she pushed her sunglasses up. It was Evelyn, alive. The second photo hit harder. Her face was turned more clearly to the camera. She looked free. Loose tank top, jeans, laughing. Not a smirk, not a fake smile, but a laugh I hadn't seen in years. There was a man beside her, his arm casually wrapped around her waist. He wasn't looking at the camera, but I didn't need to see his face. The tattoo on his wrist, an old compass we both got when we were 22, told me everything I needed to know. It was my brother, Jason. The third photo was them at a cafe, sharing a sandwich. She fed him a bite, giggling like a teenager. She looked younger somehow, lighter, like the weight of being my wife had been the thing aging her. I didn't speak for a long while, just stared at those photos, mind hollow, like someone had taken a spoon and scooped everything out. I don't remember how I got back home. I don't even remember driving. That night, I sat at the kitchen table for hours. The house was quiet, too quiet. I stared at the letter she left in the car, still folded neatly under a fridge magnet. "I'm sorry." I couldn't keep pretending. I read it again, and then something finally clicked, that second word. Pretending. Pretending to be what? My wife. A corpse? The grief I'd been clutching like a shroud turned to something else. Not rage. Not yet. Just disbelief. Like my brain refused to connect the dots because the picture it formed was too cruel. She had faked her death. She left me in pieces, only to rebuild a life with him, my own blood. Over the next few days, I unraveled. Not in the wild, dramatic way you see in movies. No whiskey bottle clutched in my hand. No yelling at the sky. It was quieter than that. Sadder. I stopped shaving. Forgot to eat. Started sleeping on the couch. As if our bedroom had become sacred ground I was no longer worthy of walking on. My mother called. "You sound strange," she said. "Just tired," I replied. The irony of those words didn't hit me until after I hung up. Jason had always been the golden one. Charming. Charismatic. The kind of man who could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they'd known him for years. I loved him fiercely once. We built tree houses together, snuck beers out of Dad's fridge, covered for each other when things went wrong. I trusted him with my life. And he took my wife. The moment I knew I had to go, to see them, came on the 5th day after that call. I woke up to the sound of Evelyn's voicemail. Not Liv, just the old one I kept saved on my phone. She was laughing in it, teasing me about forgetting the eggs during a grocery run. It was dated 2 years back, but it felt like a cruel echo. I listened to it 10 times that morning. The sound of her voice cracked something in me. I packed a bag, got in my truck, and started driving west. Toward Santa Fe. Toward them. I didn't know what I was going to say. I wasn't even sure if I'd speak at all. But something in me needed to see it. Not just the photos. Not just the idea of them. I needed to see her smile at him in real life. To know the truth not as a theory, but as a fact I could never unknow. Santa Fe was warm that September. The kind of dry heat that wrapped around your ribs, slow and quiet. Like grief. Or betrayal. I arrived just after noon and checked into a cheap roadside motel with a flickering neon sign that read Solana Inn. The woman at the front desk gave me a little side glance, like she could smell the exhaustion on me, or maybe just the absence of purpose. I didn't smile. I didn't speak much. I just needed a bed, a shower, and a few hours to gather my breath. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. Not even my mother. She still believed Evelyn was dead. So did my coworkers. My friends. Everyone I knew had mourned her, held their breath at her memorial, shed their tears into folded tissues and funeral programs. But she hadn't died. She had disappeared and taken the most intimate parts of my life with her. The private investigator had given me an address. A simple stucco home on the edge of a neighborhood called El Dorado. Quiet. Residential. Red gravel lawns and adobe walls. Evelyn always hated the cold. I remember how she'd bury herself under throw blankets in February, cursing the draft in our old colonial back in Illinois. Santa Fe made sense for someone looking to be reborn. I drove by the house twice before I stopped. It was mid-afternoon, and the sun hung just above the terracotta rooftops. I parked a block away, walked the rest. My palms were sweating. The house was one story, soft yellow with teal shutters. There were wind chimes on the porch and a hummingbird feeder by the kitchen window. And there she was, Evelyn, alive, barefoot on the porch, watering a pot of lavender. She looked happy. That word stung. Happy. As if she had earned it. As if she hadn't left wreckage in her wake. As if she hadn't hollowed out a man who would have died for her, and then staged her own death to slip away. And then Jason came out. My brother. Shirtless, wearing those old flannel pajama pants he used to steal from me in college. He walked up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and kissed her shoulder. I stopped breathing. I watched for less than a minute, maybe less than that, but it felt like a lifetime. And then I walked away. Fast. Back to my truck. I didn't know what I was doing. My fingers trembled as I turned the key. I drove aimlessly for hours through the hills outside the city, letting the desert pull the anger out of me 1 mile at a time. I didn't go back to the motel that night. Instead, I found myself in a dive bar off Old Las Vegas Highway, drinking something brown and cheap. The bartender didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer any. There was an old jukebox in the corner, playing a sad country song about losing everything except your boots. Seemed appropriate. I stared at my phone, at Evelyn's name still saved in my contacts. Evie, it said, that little sunflower emoji mocking me now. I should have deleted it months ago. I should have moved on. But there was a part of me, bruised and ridiculous, that still loved her. That part of me was dying slowly in that bar. The next morning, I drove back to the house. Not to confront them. Not yet. I didn't have the words. But I needed to see more. I needed answers. They left around 9 a.m. in his Jeep. She was in a sundress. He wore a baseball cap backwards, the way he used to in high school. They laughed as they got in, like they hadn't burned a man to the ground to get there. I followed. They stopped at a local co-op market. Organic produce. A juice bar. The kind of place Evelyn used to drag me to on Sundays when I wanted pancakes and she wanted kale. I parked a few spots down, put on a ball cap and sunglasses. Watched them shop through the windshield. They looked like a couple who'd been together for years. Smooth and practiced. His hand on the small of her back. Her finger tracing the rim of his coffee cup before she took a sip. Then I saw something that snapped the last tether of denial I'd been holding on to. She had a ring on. Not the one I gave her. A simple gold band. New. Subtle. They were married. It was then, for the first time since the call, that I felt something colder than grief. It wasn't rage, not exactly. Rage is wild, uncontrollable. This was different. A slow realization that the life I thought I had, the love I believed in, had never been what I thought. That maybe she'd never loved me at all. Maybe Jason had always been in the background, waiting for me to fail. Or maybe they started after. Maybe not. I realized it didn't matter. What mattered was that they were together, and I had been erased. No warning. No goodbye. Just a ghost story they let the world believe. And they let me grieve her like a fool. A widow without a body. A man clinging to memories that were already being rewritten with someone else's name. That night, I drove out to a viewpoint above the city, sat on the hood of my truck, watched the sun melt into the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The desert lit up like fire, and I thought about who I used to be. A husband, a brother, a man who believed in second chances. I couldn't tell if he still existed. And that's where part 3 begins. I didn't sleep the night before. I lay on that motel bed staring at the ceiling fan, counting each rotation like it might bring me closer to a reason, something to explain why they did it. How Evelyn could fake her death, vanish from my world, and wind up playing house with the one man I trusted most. But there was no logic, no sense, just silence, the kind that fills your lungs and makes you forget how to breathe. By mid-morning, I was standing on the sidewalk outside their house again. This time I didn't watch from the truck. I walked up the drive. Each step felt like walking through molasses, every bone in my body screaming to turn around. But I didn't. I knocked. There was a moment of stillness, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the door opened, and there she was, Evelyn. Her mouth opened slightly when she saw me, but no sound came out. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd slam the door, pretend I was just a ghost. But she didn't. She just stared. I couldn't even speak. My tongue was sandpaper. I must have looked like hell, 4 days of desert road and no sleep etched into my face. Then she whispered it. Cole. I almost collapsed. She stepped onto the porch, pulled the door behind her like she didn't want whoever was inside to hear. Her eyes were wider now, pupils flicking across my face like she was trying to determine if I was real. What are you doing here? She asked. I let out a laugh, a sad, sharp sound that didn't belong to me. What am I doing here? I said. You faked your own death, Evie. You left a letter in a locked car and disappeared. You let me believe you were dead. You let your family believe it. I buried you in my heart. Her jaw tightened. She looked away. I didn't think you'd come looking. That was the plan, wasn't it? She didn't answer. I took a step closer. And Jason? You couldn't just leave. You had to take him too. Still nothing. Just that blank look of someone who'd already written the next chapter without you in it. How long? I asked. How long were you with him before you died? Her lips parted, then closed again. Finally, she whispered, a year. The punch of that single word knocked the air out of me. A year. A year of lies. Of dinners and kisses and long nights where she came home late and told me it was just work. A year where I was losing her and blaming myself. A year of trying harder. Loving harder. While she was already gone. The door creaked open behind her. Jason stepped out, eyes landing on me like I was some uninvited spirit they thought they'd exorcised. He looked older, thinner, guilty. I didn't speak to him. Not at first. I wanted Evelyn to look me in the eyes when I asked what came next. Why? I said. Just tell me that. Why not just leave? Why the drama? The cliff? The note? Why not just walk away like a normal person? Her eyes filled. She wiped at them, angry with herself. Because I knew you'd never let me go, she said. You would have fought for us. And I didn't want to fight anymore. I didn't want to hurt you. I shook my head slowly. You didn't want to hurt me, so you decided to let me grieve you like a widow? You made your mother bury your memory. You made me pick out songs for a memorial. Jason stepped forward, mouth opening like he wanted to explain. Don't, I warned. Don't speak. You don't get to play the protector. You don't get to pretend you didn't make a choice. His shoulders slumped. I didn't plan for it to happen, he muttered. It just what? I snapped. It just happened. You just fell into bed with your brother's wife and just helped her disappear from his life? His face twisted. You weren't there. You didn't see her breaking. I was trying to help her. I took a breath, steadied myself, because the rage was bubbling and I didn't want to give it oxygen. You helped her, all right, I said. Helped her pack. Helped her rewrite our history. Helped her erase me from the story. I looked at them both then. really looked. They didn't look like villains. They looked like people trying to build a lie into a life and call it peace. But peace built on betrayal is brittle. It doesn't last. I'm not here to scream, I said finally. I'm not here to drag you back. I just needed to see it. To see what the truth looks like. Evelyn stepped down onto the first porch step. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know that doesn't mean much, but I am. I nodded. You should be. There was a pause. Are you going to tell everyone? Jason asked. No, I said. You'll do that yourself. Sooner or later, the truth has a habit of finding its way out. I turned, walked back to my truck. My hands were steady now, my chest lighter. Closure doesn't always come wrapped in justice. Sometimes, it just comes in the form of knowing, finally, that it wasn't your fault. That the love you gave wasn't wasted, even if it wasn't returned. That the truth, however brutal, is still better than the lie you were asked to live. 2 weeks later, Evelyn's death was quietly amended in county records. Cause of disappearance, unresolved. No charges filed. No one wanted a scandal. I didn't speak to them again. I sold the house. Moved to Oregon. Bought a small cabin near the coast. I still fold laundry slowly. I still keep the sunflower emoji in her contact. Not because I forgive, but because I don't want to forget. Some stories don't get happy endings, but they do get endings. And that's enough.